Okay, we're live. How are you feeling today?
Feeling tense.
Come on, this is the
Tense
easiest.
feelings.
Michael, hopefully this is the best. This is the easiest conversation you'll have all week.
I hope so.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening today. I've got Valeria from the Appliance Repair Pros. I first learned about Valeria. I was listening to Peter Lohman's podcast, and you were on it. And I was just so engaged. It was a great conversation that you had with him, talking about your business.
Yay.
Yeah, you were awesome. And
it was my first time.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you something. I mean, I think that one of the things that's really interesting about all podcasts is that you get to know a little bit about somebody before you get a chance to meet them. And often that helps, I don't know, it like jumpstarts the dialogue, and you kind of can begin to build a hunch of what that person's like. And I tell you something, there's nothing on show. You are who you are. And it's outstanding to hear those conversations. So that's a special.
Great. That's the goal.
It's special, right? Otherwise, it's too much work. To everyone listening today, so Valeria from the Appliance Professionals, raised. Well, I'll let you tell your story a little bit, but raised in the U.S., out of Nicaragua, maybe one of those beautiful places in the world. You've had a chance to go there, and
thank you.
Running a company called the Appliance Professionals. Appliance Professionals. I'll let you speak to that in a second here. For everyone listening today, please engage with us. If you have any questions, please ask questions throughout. And the thing we talk about is getting to hell yes. And why getting to hell yes is different than maybe your average sales conversation is that one of the things that we seek to understand in the hell yes buyer side of things is why do people buy? Why do they buy now? And why do their other alternatives suck? Basically, why do they try and figure out to do something differently? Because doing something differently is unnatural for human beings. And so why do they choose to trust their appliance fixes to an offshore company? Why is their current alternative so bad that they'd say, I'm going to do this differently, right? Number one. And then number two, why they do it now, right? So what do they consider? What are their options? We talked through that whole buying cycle. And Valeria and I have had a couple conversations already. So we've had a good jam on that. And it's exciting. It's an exciting conversation because, and I actually had this chat just the other day from a sales perspective, that people don't buy the way they used to buy. And so especially as we're into an era of constraint, that they need to buy with there's deliberateness and intention to where they're allocating their mental energy, because there's just not enough time right now. And there's not enough funds. There's not enough people. Everybody I talk to talks the same thing. There's not enough people. There's not enough time. There's not enough money. But I still have to do the same quality, and I still have to do things faster. So how are we innovating around that, and how are we delivering on that? Includes talking to partners like Valeria. As always, this is brought to you by IRCX. IRCX is remote maintenance and AI inspection software for property management. If you have any questions about what we do and how we solve it, we save you trips, we save you quality, we save you time, we save you a lot of people resources. Just shoot me a DM. Happy to chat about that. If you're catching this on the podcast, like, follow, subscribe. That's always awesome for helping everybody to find us. That's the intro. Let's talk about your buyer's journey. First thing, as we always do, pass it off to Valeria, a little bit about yourself. And importantly, to kind of kick things off, what is the problem that you solve at Appliance Repair Pros?
Okay, well, as you already stated, right, I am Nicaraguan. I'm currently in Nicaragua, right? This is where I run the company from. I was born and raised in California because, 1980s, my parents had to flee just for some political reasons to the United States. And, they had to just start working right away. And I moved to California, and that's where I was born and raised. I moved back to Nicaragua like in 2009-ish. Finished my degree. My degrees actually was in biology, right? Because living in California was like a big like bio lab boom. And I've always been like into science, right? I was always like those scholastic book fairs, right?
Yeah. Nice. Oh yeah.
Those are the best, right? But mom was like, you get one thing, right? Because that was a little pricey. All that stuff was right. And I would always get like the, science experiment like boxes and stuff. So did you have
an ant farm?
Huh?
Did you have an ant farm?
No, I was a little bit wild. That's I don't know about the bugs. I was kind of more like growing your crystals and like,
oh yeah,
things, growing your things like that. anyway, so I always was into my older brother actually is a chemist. He worked at a food lab, and and I grew up in the Bay Area, right? So that was like a big boom. Yeah. So it really interested me. But then at some point, there's a university, actually, a U.S. university, actually located in the same town where I'm living at right now, that happens to be like a branch from like a private U.S. university in Florida called Ave Maria. It's like a private, and they happen to have biology. It was like the last year they're going to offer it. Grandma lived here, so I moved over here. Yeah. And then the thing is that, so my intentions always didn't work in the bio industry, but I was always used to working and making my own money, right? Even if going to school, like in the U.S., that's a very normal thing, right? You have a part-time job, makes your own money, Ross money, Target money, things like that. Yep. And I was always
Ross
used to
Target money, yeah.
Now it's personal. TJ Maxx. That's like my first thing I go do is visit a TJ Maxx, and then some fast food, right? Panda Express. Anyways, so so I found this like job online at a time on Craigslist, Nicaragua, which was like 10 listings total at the time. This was before work from home was really that much of a thing. But I was like, here, the salaries are really low. Like you have a full-time job to even make kind of okay money. Yeah. I couldn't do that because I was finishing my degree. I found this job online at the time. It was like very small. It was like I said this before, like Google spreadsheets, like just setting appointments. Like, it was mostly Filipino people. And like all work from home. And like 2 Nicaraguans, a surfer from San Juan del Sur, which you mentioned you had been to, right?
It's amazing.
And myself, and I actually started as a booking agent, which was just like the incoming call to just set the appointment for the tech to come out to the house. And then, long story short, it kind of, it grew into this, what we have today, right? We're now at like 60 plus people. Now we have this, I'm in the building that is, the office for the company. And so did I think I was going to do appliance repair for a living? No, but it turns out that it's like the best job ever. I love it.
Well, you've grown a business. You've been in this operations role for like 7 or 8 years.
Let me see. I've been the VPO with the company, maybe like 13 years total.
Yeah.
VPO, maybe 12 11-ish years, right? Like
I got the numbers wrong.
Around there.
Yeah. But learning how to grow a business that's been dynamic, right? And through COVID is a very unique experience.
Which is crazy. Yeah. COVID, it was an uncertain time in the beginning, right? You don't know what's going to happen.
Especially Latin America. Latin America was upside down. Like what we had here was nothing compared to Latin America. Like my family was
all over the place.
My family, I had a business in Mexico, and we were paying people because there was no government support, right? So we were paying people to stay just employed. And that eventually had to stop. My family in Peru, my aunt was in the hospital, and we had to buy oxygen for her.
Yeah, similar.
Right?
Yeah,
we would buy oxygen to send to the hotel because there was no oxygen in the hotel. So there's a black market for oxygen, right? So we can't just go to the store and buy oxygen. And so we were finding oxygen and bringing oxygen to the hotel, no questions asked. Yes. It was a weird place.
It was very strange, and it was a moment of like, we were kind of like uncertain, like what's going to happen. But that was one of the moments where I was like, wow, that this is like, I can't believe we survived this. Like, it actually ended up being literally, I think we recently, God bless, broke a record of that year, like literally a few months ago. Yeah. But that was like our all-time busiest year, was like the peak of COVID. It ended up being, we started the same thing. We're like, okay, we're just going to keep people employed. We're going to figure it out. But then because it was ended up being like an essential job, it actually ended up being like our best year ever. And so, it kind of just put things in perspective, like, wow, this really, it's really actually really is essential, and it was great. Yeah. So we actually survived and had one of our best years.
Outstanding. And so let's get to the problem. So so explain a bit about let's start with the problem, and then we can back into how you solve the problem. And then we'll back into who buys that problem, right?
Okay. Well, problem, your appliances mess up, right? It's like, that's like a thing that's going to happen. It's not even like I've said this before. It's like, average at least everybody, hopefully has at least 5 appliances at least
Yeah.
in their home, apartment, doesn't matter where they're at, right? And so literally everybody that hopefully,
Yeah.
right, has at least 5. So the chances of at least sooner or later one of those like messing up and all of them feel, very essential that, are high. It's just a matter of time. It's not if, it's just when, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so the shortage so the problem's never going to go away. Like I've mentioned before, like it doesn't matter if you get like these more modern appliances that diagnose themselves sooner or later, there's things that they physically have to be repaired. So
whenever you have moving parts, there's always something that's going to fail. Like microwaves tend to live forever, but like dishwashers, ovens, stoves,
especially
fridges,
when there's like water involved, electronics, water.
And flips and switches and all those things, right? So the appliance problem exists, but then it doesn't.
Always.
But who does it exist for? Like your business, is it mostly B2B, or is it mostly B2C? Like where does most of your demand come from?
Okay, well, there's 2 sides of the company, right? We started with, it's called the Appliance Repair Men. That's where we first started. It was like private homeowners, like, they would just call us like directly, like people are just in their house. That's a big one. We do like, now we're doing like 6,000 to 7,000 a month jobs like that, right? So, but then what we realized is there was like a huge market for like, property managers and warranty companies that like needed this service too. But obviously that required a lot of more, steps and a lot more back and forth and, there's a lot more on the line. And so then we a few years ago, we opened the Appliance Repair Professionals, which is kind of what we're focusing on right now,
right?
Growing it because it's literally the same issues that, your private homeowner has is the same issues that the property manager has, except for now they have like the tenant and the owner in their ear. And it's like,
like I would counter that and say like they're the same symptom, but a different problem.
Yeah. I mean, I would feel it's more intense as a property manager, right? Because you're
100%.
like, you have 2 parties that you have to keep happy, right?
Yeah. Well, it's when I have to solve my problem, then it's on my schedule. But when I have to solve your problem, it's on your schedule. And that changes my timeline.
100%.
Because I don't get a vote on your timeline. I only get a vote on my timeline.
Correct.
And that makes things urgent and also quality and all those costs and plus the business. And maybe I'm growing my business. I don't want to deal with this personally. Whereas like if it's just one fridge, I can have different choices than if I've got 300 fridges.
Correct.
Because statistically, as you indicated, like I'm going to have if I have 300 fridges, I'm going to have a repair rate that is, much more bell curve-ish than my one fridge in my house.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So then the problem that you solve. So then let's talk about the Appliance Pros versus the Man, because those 2 businesses both still exist, right?
Yeah, they both still exist, right?
Yeah.
And
your B2C version is B2C is the Man, and B2B is the Pros. Like your property management, your property management business is the Pros.
Yeah, those acronyms. I warned you about those.
I'm bad at that. Your property management business is Pros, and then your consumer business is the repairman. Right?
Yeah, so there's a little bit less control. I mean, at the end of the day, we're sending a tech, like we're responsible for sending, right? But we kind of let the tech and the customer kind of like create the relationship and kind of between them decide what's fair, what's not fair, things like that. There's a lot more freedom with that. They gain customers, because they're not leads. Like we're booking actual appointments, not leads, right? Most of the industry is just doing leads. And so, because the appliance techs trying to look for work, like AngelList and all that, they're very expensive. They're leads. They're not actual jobs. We're actually booking jobs, right? So, and so they love that. Techs love that because it's like, I actually have a job where a legitimate can make, some money here. And so that's kind of, we leave most of that between the customer and the tech. They gain the customer and all that. Whereas the Appliance Repair Professionals, there's a little bit more control over that, right? Because because of the experience we've had with the Appliance Repair Men, we know where the issues are, right? Like we know what delays a repair. For example, parts ordering. That's a big one, right? On the other side, we hear kind of like more often and that's, like I said, it's between them. If there's an issue, obviously we're always going to be resolving it because that's just part of the business, right? But so the text, for example, parts ordering, that's one of the main issues that kind of delays a repair, right? Because it's like, okay, I get the money up front for a part. I'll be back with the part. So you're relying this one person to make sure that they're actually following up and ordering the part on time and all these things. Maybe they slack. maybe, maybe they don't buy it right away, and then maybe
or they buy the wrong one.
Yeah, things like that, but and so that right there is a delay, right? Then it's like, well, maybe they'll say they order, but maybe they haven't quite yet, but you don't really have a way to check it because you're not going to, like you're just relying on this technician. And so we realize that that's one of the areas where we can improve speed, right, on a repair. So, for example, on the Appliance Repair Professional side, the techs that do work with us, which is, there's less coverage, right? Appliance Repairman's like 40 states. Appliance Repair Professionals, we started at 22. Past few years, we've gone to 27, right? 27 states based on demand.
Well, and for today, let's talk about the pros. So we're the conversation stays online. And everyone listening is principally in the B2B space, in the business to business space, property management space. And it's a different business. I mean, it's the same, to you, there are similarities, but like from a buying perspective, there's different problems that you're solving.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of want to scratch a little bit on today is like,
exactly
what you're doing, what you do really well, from what I've seen and heard and other people talking about it, is that like the problem that a property manager has to address is that something's gone wrong. I don't want to go there. I can't go there. You said 40 states, and it needs to be solved right away. And I need to do it reliably, safely, within a cost control that fits my spreadsheet. That doesn't happen on a personal side of things. And so so what you do for property managers and the pricing that we talked about and all those things, you're solving a different problem set because it's different. They have a different to-do list than a consumer does.
I mean, we already know where to close the gaps, right? So that's why I was mentioning the parts thing. So it's like on the Appliance Professional side, unless the tech happen to have a part in his truck right then and there, he can fix the repair right then and there, and he's going to give me a good price on that. Yeah. We, for the most part, we actually provide the parts at cost ourselves. We're the ones at cost. So we're not even interested in making money off the parts, because where we gain is just the speed, right? When we have control over something like ordering parts, and we know exactly when it's going to get to the tech's house, we know exactly like how quickly we can schedule it, right? We're not just relying on like shaky information. Like that right there is one of the examples of how we've been able to like, improve the speed of repair substantially. Like that's kind of an example.
And that gets into the thing that you're talking about, is that the problem that you solve for property managers is the speed thing, right? Whereas that personally, I might be seeking to solve a cost and a speed thing, but because I can live with it because it's my own decisions and my own dollar. But a property management side, it's all about speed. And then, and then right after that, it's kind of quality. And then cost is like there's a tolerance for cost. But if you were to force rank, so I'll ask you, if you force rank speed, quality, cost, where do you compete? How do you win? How do you win? Like, where do you win most on speed, quality, like in terms of 1, 2, 3? Is it cost, quality, speed? Is it speed, quality, cost? Like, why would I buy you from a property manager? What's the problem I need to solve?
I mean, okay, well, what's the main thing, right, that a property manager has to prevent is like churn, right? Like you want to retain your tenants 100%. Right. So the past few years, the focus has been more towards like maintenance and how important maintenance is to retain your customers, right? Like a big one, the obvious ones are like the HVAC. Those are like thousands of dollars. But like, I think people underestimate how important it is to address those, a refrigerator being messed up. Like that's a big deal. That, you never know at some point when that's going to be like the straw that broke the camel's back. I was just talking to my friend Heidi the other day, same thing. She moved from Texas to Florida. She had a house there. She had a property manager, and she was just like all these things. She had to repair the deck and all these things. And then all of a sudden, she was like, and then, we're already like on the verge of we're thinking about selling. And then all of a sudden, the refrigerator goes out. We send a tech out there and he's like, oh, I recommend replacement. And so there goes $2,000 in a brand new fridge. And he was like, that was it. Like that was when I was like done. Right. And so I had a conversation. I'm like, you know what? This is crazy. Like, I just happened to run into this conversation, right? Like, I just happened to, just talk like nonchalantly. And it's like, how often does this happen? Like, how often is this like, that's like their appliance most likely often is going to be like the one thing that's going to take this person to, you know what? They fire their property manager, they, sell a house and things like that. So those are important things. So we understand that. So what we try to do, and the difference with us is, like I've said before, we're not necessarily like the cheapest, right? Average repair, but the reason why, but I think that our average repair costs are, for the most part is like realistic and reasonable. And, maybe it's not the cheapest, but at the end of the day, we go out to the home with the intentions of actually fixing the appliance. Whereas a lot of the industry, their intention is not necessarily to fix it. They're just trying to make some money by way of maybe, a tech who's just collecting diagnostic fees all day and just recommending replacement.
Yeah.
Right. And then they're not really thinking about the owner who's going to get that $2,000 new fridge bill. Right. So then like the difference, what we try to do is like, we're not just trying to send a tech out to, keep the tenant happy. We're going with the true intention to actually repair the appliance. And that's a big difference, right? There's a lot of techs that, you're sending a tech out there and they don't necessarily care about fixing the appliance. They're just going to, they want to shut up the tenant and, get a diagnostic. Oh, we're going to replace it. That's fine. But then the owner's going to get pissed. And that might be the one thing, the straw that broke the camel's back that like makes them just,
I mean, it's true. I mean, I've owned properties in the past and like, it is frustrating to constantly have to replace recommendation, right? Because you wonder if you're actually doing the job. Because I can go buy a fridge from Lowe's as good as you can, And so like the thing that is interesting about what you guys solve for, right? As you mentioned earlier, like the not necessarily being the cheapest from a price perspective means that's not the number one priority of your buyers. You guys are big. You have a lot of volume. You're being very successful. And so the thing that you're solving for isn't price. Like it's not, I mean, there's a boundary of what is acceptable. And it's kind of like, there's what do you call goalposts, but like the thing that you're solving for is the convenience and the speed part. Because as a property manager, I know that was my priority.
I mean, the effectivity of the actual visit, right?
Yeah. How effective is it?
It's like, do I solve this person's problem, right? Mm-hmm. Especially something like a refrigerator. It's like, it's a big deal for people. It's like, it's not just the fridge going out. It's like my $500 in groceries. And it's like, it's one thing, to be something out. But when you're actually, and it's like, my ribeye that's going to go bad. It's like, they're not even thinking about like, the $40 to spend on the ribeye. Yeah. It's like, oh my, the ribeye for this Saturday that I know. It's like so wasteful. So it's such a big deal. And so, what's happening is a lot of these techs, like I've mentioned this before, you ask for like, what's your average repair? Like, the property managers sometimes think they're getting a good deal. Like, oh, my average cost that I pay this planter tech is like 100 and something. It's like, there's no way that's a bad sign. That means they're mostly doing diagnostics and they're either giving these big estimates to fix them, or they're recommending replacement, right?
And then that's where you guys fall into your second priority is the quality piece, right?
100%.
Like and again, like we've had chats about this already, but like if I'm a property manager, I need speed. Like speed is non-negotiable.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Non-negotiable. Quality is how you differentiate, and you guys are able to do it in a way that it makes the cost effectiveness, an outcome of speed speed times quality equals the cost effectiveness piece in the way you do it. And so if I'm a property manager and I'm seeking to solve for kind of like, I need to solve for all three, but there's kind of a weighting in terms of how I need to respond. And you guys were able to do the speed part, which is my number one kind of like weighting. And then quality is closely behind because I don't want to get screwed over by all these other things, all these other ways of doing things. Uh-huh. And then the price, if I'm comfortable with the price, then that's the trade-off I'm willing to make for speed and quality. Because like when I sit there and look at the choices that I'm making or for our business or when I've been a property manager, is like I'm always thinking about the trade-off, right? Mm-hmm. What's a trade-off on price? What's a trade-off on speed? What's a trade-off on quality? And it's okay, I had 10 units, so it wasn't like it was a whole massive scale. Mm-hmm. But if you get into where you're at, where you're talking millions of work orders, right? Mm-hmm. The delta between where you're starting and where you get to is massive for your customers. Yeah, because they care about speed and quality. Is non-negotiable. And quality, if everyone listening, quality equals trust in this business. 100%. Like those are like, that's a formula. Quality equals trust. Because if you can do things fast and predictable, now I trust you. And I want to start deferring more to you. We had the same conversation with Angelica from Essentia last week. Mm-hmm. Was like, the more that I trust you, the more that you do things based on my priorities, the more I'm going to give you because I don't want to deal with those things.
Exactly.
And then as long as the price is fair, and I use this word all the time, like when talking about negotiations, said, people ask me what's the price, and I'll say, well, look, it's important that we both stay in business, right?
Correct.
So it's important.
We both got to make money.
We both got to
right?
make money, right? So what's a fair price given the value we're delivering? And that opens the door to be on the same side of the table of the customer versus I'm trying to get a bigger piece of the pie, and the bigger piece of pie, the smaller piece of pie you get, like this doesn't work anymore. And so I'm finding that like when we talk about those kind of conversations about price, it's understanding where that force ranks on my customer's buy list, which helps translate to getting to hell yes, right?
I mean, I think people also get kind of stuck. Like, I think it's easy for a lot of people to just see like where you're losing money when there's like an actual spreadsheet where it gives you like the dollar amount.
Yeah.
But I think the struggle is seeing where you're losing money, like just, I don't know what you say, like conceptually or abstractly, like that's kind of like a hard thing. Like, let me give you an example. Like one of the issues that we have, like there's some companies we just simply cannot work with because they're like, oh, I need 10% off of every invoice, right? Every property manager does that differently, right?
Or like not the gross up, but the rebate, like a rebate.
Yeah, like whatever. If I'm charging, okay, my bill is 500, like they expect they're only going to pay me 10% less than the 500, right? So like, I can't work with people like that, right? Because just that's a big hit for us, especially our model. And then on top of that, I just don't even think and like I said, it sounds like bias, right? Like, of course, I'm the vendor, I don't want to pay 10%. But the reality is like in the appliance repair industry, there's no shortage of work at all. I mean, obviously, literally, we're talking about everybody has like 5 appliances, but there is a shortage of techs, right? Yeah. So we work with techs that are like, they're great at fixing appliances, but maybe they're not great at like the following up and all that, but they're maybe great at fixing appliances. That's kind of like our niche, right? That's who we work with.
Because you solve a problem for them.
Yeah.
Right?
Because
they want to work 40 hours and they don't want to worry about anything else.
The guys that are like, have everything, in line, which is not, honestly, it's not many of them. Like those guys don't even work with us because they're busy. They're super busy because of the demand.
And so we'll just pause for a second. So everyone listening, your techs are 1099s, right?
Yes.
And the field. And so that's the marketplace that you guys deliver is you manage the demand side and you manage the speed, the quality, right? Price is what the price is. Like there's very little, like you don't have a lot of influence on that. You can't change the price, but you can change speed and quality.
Yeah. I mean,
we watch it. That's quality. That's part of the quality.
Yeah.
And then you pass on and then you create demand for the 1099 vendors. And so then they can do their jobs because you do have two sides to sell to. You've got to provide a value to your 1099s and you got to provide value to your property managers.
Yeah, because everything's expensive and, they get booked jobs, not leads. And it's like kind of a win-win. And then we help them, be better, I guess, right? Like we kind of let them focus on what they're good at, which is fixing the appliances. And we kind of take care of everything else. So anyway, so when it comes down to, those are the techs we work with. So, like us personally, like we wouldn't work with a company who wants to take 10% because there's plenty of other companies that don't do that. Right?
Well, because that's actually not the problem you solve. You solve the problem. That's not the problem you solve.
Yeah.
You solve speed and quality. And so for property managers in this vertical, and in these 40 states, you solve for them speed and quality. If these are, it's almost a conversation. Like if you were to put a want ad out, wanted property managers that are in these states that care about speed and quality first. Yeah. Call us.
Solving the issue for the tenant, right? Because, okay, so then they charge 10%, right? So it's like, there's no shortage of work. So what kind of techs are you actually getting that are willing to take a 10% hit? Yep. When there's a bunch of work everywhere else, like why would I take a 10% hit knowing that there's an endless amount of work, right? And maybe also, I'm like mediocre. Maybe I'm not that I never learned to get more business. Maybe I don't get people calling me back. So then it's like, what kind of quality you actually are getting for techs that are willing to take a 10% hit, considering that they can just get work anywhere else and not have to take a 10% hit.
Well, and also I think it's important to kind of like think of the buyer in terms of that. If you're a buyer that's looking for a 10% hit, maybe you don't care about speed and quality that much. Yeah. Like if you compete, because you can't compete on all three. It's impossible, right? And so you guys have chosen to compete on speed first, quality support speed, and then price is an
Reasonable.
uncontrollable.
I mean,
Yeah, it's a fair number.
realistic.
Right. So if I'm a buyer, so this is where I'm getting into the hell yes buyer, right? Like the hell yes buyer for you, if they're going to talk to you about price, then you can counter say, well, obviously, like this is the trade-off that it is. Like speed and quality aren't your priorities. And this is something I've learned to say recently, that this probably isn't going to be a good fit for either of us. Because if I'm going to report back to you about how fast we're solving work orders and how good they're being solved, but you care about the price, that's what you want to see, this isn't going to work out. Because you compete.
I mean, think about like, okay, what? So you're worried about making 10% off, whatever, refrigerator repair.
Yeah.
But then maybe the tech that is going out there because you picked the tech who's willing to take a 10% hit, which is probably a bad sign, is probably mediocre. Maybe he's recommending replacement. So then he goes out there and instead of fixing it for $300, which he might have been able to, he just, the easy way out, recommends replacement or whatever. And then what happens? Then you get like my friend Heidi, who told me like that, oh, okay, well, I was told I had to replace a refrigerator for $2,000. And that was it. Like that was the thing that made her say, you know what? I fired my property manager. Yeah. I'm selling my house. I'm done. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. Right. So it's like, you're worried about making 10% off like a refrigerator repair. So because you can see how much money you're making, but you're not realizing that you actually might lose a door for, because of you making 10% off, like whatever, $400 repair. It just
well, I think she brought up you brought up something interesting we haven't talked about yet, right? So your client's client, right? So your clients, the property manager, has a client owners, right?
Correct.
Now, what's something you brought up there, which is a nuance in the conversation, is that you're mindful of what your client's client is looking for,
100%.
right? But that's a connective tissue that if I understand what your client's client is looking for, because they don't want to show up, they don't want, then you're stewarding them end to end based on your client's needs. Mm-hmm. And so, the intentional or not, this is kind of what you guys have grooved out, is that you're aware of your client's needs. So you're helping them reach their goals. And this is part of what makes a hell yes buyer so aerodynamic, is like you're being able to get past the conversations of like, the things that don't align with what you do best in the world. And I think this is the part this makes for interesting conversations around what you're best in the world at, and then what you control and what you can't control. Because then if you can be best in the world at the things that you can control, then you're rocking, right? Yeah. If you're trying to be best in the world at things you can't control, then you got to do a lot of work. And so what you guys are finding a lot of acceleration around the ability to be best in the world at things that you control. And that is important to your client. And it's really important to your client's client.
100%.
Right? When you're having conversations, it's like, hey, what are you trying to achieve? Why is it important right now?
Like, what is your property manager? Like, what is it that you want to do? You want to get as many doors as possible, and you want to retain them as long as possible, and you don't want churn. That's the main goal, right? Isn't that it?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So it's like, why are you focusing on making a few extra bucks on an invoice? Because you're using a mediocre tech that's willing to take a 10% hit, who's there then going to go and do a shitty job or a mediocre job. And then that's the straw that broke the camel's back. Like my friend Heidi, it's like, okay, so now you just lost a door for like 10% off a invoice. It just seems a little bit backwards. It doesn't really.
Well, and this is part of this is where this whole conversation started like a year ago, was trying to dig in on some of the mismatches in property management, because there's mismatches that exist on I'll say inefficient distribution of revenue, where there's like revenue being captured by certain folks align with the incentive of their client or the client's client, right? Like that diagnostic fee example you made before, right? That diagnostic fee is kind of a I'll call that an exploiting the circumstances. Because in a case where there was more competition, that service would not be acceptable. But so that's a supply side exploitation of the fact that I know what a fridge looks like. People pay me, and I got a name, Fred's Fridges, and hope there's no Fred's Fridges listening because I just made that up. But like Fred's Fridges know they get called, and they basically end up just selling. And not to forget, so we also have customers that are on the pro side of the market So we have customers that that sell through the pro network, and like different like fridges and stuff like that, fridges and appliances and installation and locks and so on, and they get paid to sell, right? So like, let's not forget that if you are selling for the Whirlpool group, if you've got a distribution agreement with them and you're a repair person, there is a bit of a conflict of interest that emerges, because it's easier to put in a new Whirlpool fridge than it is to put in to go fix it, especially if there's kind of a complications around the compressor, the parts, and maybe I don't know how to do it. Maybe I don't want to.
In some cases you have to, right? I mean, obviously.
Yeah,
right?
Sometimes you have to. And so it's like, we trust as consumers and property managers, we trust the advice that we're getting from our appliance techs to be honest and trustworthy quality around the advice they're giving. And it's complicated when you understand that they get paid to sell appliances and they get paid to repair.
Which is actually like, we actually don't, we can install an appliance, right? But we actually don't offer, as of now, replacement, like, brand new appliances for that same reason, because it's like, I probably would have to use some of the same techs, that install, but I wouldn't want them to, open that window up.
So this is a good kind of like segue, right? Is that the reason why the current options are not as desirable as using you guys is because there is that conflict of interest 100%. In most of those appliance techs, whether it be just do a diagnostic, they're also getting paid in the back end, the fridge side. So because of that conflict of I'm just kind of like, sorry, I'm just playing this out. This is how I learn and understand.
Yeah.
And everyone who listens to the show knows that is that there's a problem with the option of just choosing Fred's fridges, because Fred's gets paid by Whirlpool and he gets paid by the property manager.
Yes.
And depending on the time of day, they may choose one or the other. And maybe Fred's just hired a junior tech, and that junior tech doesn't know how to fix that 7-year-old fridge, so he's going to recommend replace. So there's a bit of
yeah. There's a lot of techs that will like even to us like, okay, let's send this tech. It's like, and we'll hear like, okay, well, it's a fridge not cooling. Okay, I can do it, but if it's a Freon issue, I can do it. But if it's something else, whatever that is, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Right. So I immediately am like, then let's not send them. Like, why would I send a tech that can only fix something if it's one or two, issue A and B? I need a tech who can fix any issue that's causing the, I want to send a tech that has the intentions of actually fixing the appliance, because that's what's going to make your tenant feel taken care of. The owner's going to be less stressed. Like, okay, we at least resolved it. I don't have to buy a new appliance. And then therefore it's in their best interest as a property manager. Like, you want to resolve the issue, right? Recommend replacement. You're resolving the issue, but you're pissing the owner off.
I was buying a dishwasher. No, sorry, it was a dryer for rental property. And God, it's all just clicking for me. So this is about 7 or 8 years ago. I'm buying a dryer for a clothes dryer for our rental property, and I go into Craigslist and I find Craigslist at the time, find a guy. I'm like, perfect. Yeah, he's got it up there. Okay, that looks good. And I go and I'm buying a used one because I'm frugal. And I go there and he's got like 45 dryers all in his backyard. Right. And I'm like, this is so weird. Why do you have 45 dryers? He goes, well, I go and, this is it. He goes and does diagnostics, and he charges to replace it. And then he removes it for them. And then he takes that dryer and repairs it because it's super repairable, places the element, and then he resells it on Craigslist.
There you go.
Right. So he's like ultra motivated. I mean, I hope there's a lot of people saying going, duh, Guillermo, but like, I just kind of like, I haven't thought about this for a long time.
Yeah.
For sure. He's got a conflict of interest in the advice that he's giving, or she, and you help the problem in terms of a property manager at 1,000 units, 500 units, 300 units, 100 units, 15 units, you're helping give the right advice because you don't have a horse in the race on a repair or replace.
I want to resolve the issue. I'm going with the intentions of actually fixing it.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
What I like about where this is going is that the alternatives, like the people make choices because their current alternatives aren't working out. They choose change because they're not happy with their current alternatives. And so not only is there a lack of people available, is there's lack of trust. And so I trust Valeria and the Appliance Repair Pros, and you do it quickly. And
you recognize the patterns, right? Like if all of a sudden I have this tech who's like, that's strange. 5 diagnostics in a row. Like,
well, yeah.
Even trying, you know what I mean? So it's like red flag. Same thing with like, sometimes they're like, oh, what's your hourly rate? We don't do hourly rate. We don't believe in hourly rate, right? Because, it's about being fair, but also keeping the people you work with being, keep them honest. Mm-hmm. So why isn't there an hourly rate, right? It makes no sense, right? Because it's kind of like, okay, if you have a technician who's like really skilled, who has a lot of experience, who can diagnose something and fix it in a half hour, right? Like, what, you're going to punish him because he did it like super fast because he's, you know what I mean? So you can only you charge a half hour.
All right. So that's another thing you do, right? Is you've got rack pricing for jobs. So getting back to like the problem that you solve,
it's more like, it's like, this is a grand total we're going to, charge for this, labor wise, period, right? Doesn't matter how long it is, because then there's the other side. Then you have the possibility, because not everyone's, the most morally correct person and not the most honest. So maybe you have a
I think people they've got conflict of interest. And so people will do what's best for their interest. And I don't think it's morally corrupt or anything. They're putting food on their own table. And so I don't think
so then they have the tech who's like, maybe he can do it in an hour, but he all of a sudden is taking 3 hours. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So then it's like you're screwing over the tech who's experienced, who's fast, who can do it in like 20 minutes by charging hourly. Or you're opening it up for a sneaky tech to charge you more and taking his time on something that could have been an hour. So that's why hourly rate for us, we don't.
So that's another thing. So let's talk about the options that are available. My option is to go call a tech out of the Craigslist or the off Google, and that tech's going to come on a one-off. So I don't have any consistency. I don't have when you've got a repeatable revenue model, you have more. You kind of like have trust built into the model, like a check on trust, right? Mm-hmm. And so you provide the revenue that's repeatable for that tech, versus kind of like onesies, twosies. And so the way I'm kind of like celebrating your business is like, when you guys look at because you have a repeatable revenue stream with these techs, they're going to be more inclined to be trustworthy because there's a long-term relationship at play here versus a short-term transaction.
We get to know them like, we call them like full-time subs, right? Like, they're subcontractors, but like some of these guys have been with us, we're their only source of work. We get to know them. That's a huge thing. It's not like we just get a job and we just randomly are Googling somebody. Like, we're talking about these guys that like we've worked through them. Like, we've seen them, how they work on the other side where they have more freedom. And that's where you see, their character, their consistency. We see if they want to work on the other side. We get to know them. Like, we know, like I mentioned before, it's like, we know like, oh, this guy, like, he's great, but don't send him on Monday mornings because Sunday he wilds out. He goes a little wild. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
little rough in the morning. So don't schedule anything unless it's like 2 and on. You know what I mean? Like, so that's another thing. You have to know who you're working with and be realistic, of like what your expectations, right?
And that's the quality part, right? So that's the part that you sell for me as a property manager.
Yeah.
So then, so let's kind of get into what choices they normally have. So we talked about I'm a property manager and I've got 100 units, so I'm kind of like growing. And I've got 100 fridges, 100 stoves, 100 washers, 100 dryers, and they're gonna fail at a pretty regular rate. So I want to go find someone to solve this problem for me because I don't want to deal with this. I really don't even want to deal with it at all. I would like to go
at all, really, like following up, scheduling the tenant, like.
Yeah. So what choices do they have?
Well, it's either they're Googling some random person and hoping for the best and whatever, or they should just contact us. And then because you're calling some random person, you only have that text. So it's like, if this guy just stops answering or, doesn't go through, like, you start getting desperate, you already spend money on this guy.
But that takes, if you got 100 units, right? So let's say you get 100, you got 500 appliances at 100 units, right?
Yeah.
So with 500 appliances at a fail rate of 10%, you got 10% a year. So you've got 7 or 8 work orders a month, maybe 10 work orders a month. Let's call it 10 work orders a month probably 50% is a little high, or 10% low. So let's call it like 10 work orders a month. So I can either hire somebody to manage those, because the job's got to be done, right?
Yeah, you have to resolve it no matter what.
Yeah, either I do it with my time, or I hire somebody to do it, or I vend it out, or I use technology. It's kind of like the three big choices. So hiring people is tough. Maybe I'd rather my people doing other work that's higher value for my property management business. And in your case, I vend it out to Appliance Pros, and you guys have your own tech to be able to do the job. Yeah. So then my choices are hiring somebody to manage it and coordinate it, because that's ultimately what they've got to do. And their job is to.
But then they're going to deal with, maintenance coordinators are like that huge turnover rate, right?
Yeah.
You want to make their job easier too, right? Because it's like, then you're going to lose that person, and then you got another problem. Right. So you need to find vendors who are easier to work with, so that you're not, because then you're losing money somewhere else. You're losing the maintenance coordinator, and then now all of a sudden you have to hire somebody, and there goes money loss on that side. Right. So
not to mention, you hire a maintenance coordinator, they're working 8 to 5, but the problems typically happen 5 to 8.
Yeah.
And so now they've got
and then you have us who it's like, it's not just one tech. I mean, we'll send out one tech, but then if something goes awry, something's happening, it doesn't matter if they're subcontractors. We're the ones that send it to your house. We're responsible, at the end of the day. And if that means like we have to resolve an issue, something goes haywire, and I have to lose money on that job, that's just the cost of doing business. It is what it is.
With that property manager.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think that what you guys do also from the speed and quality perspective is you take the temperature down when something's gone wrong, right? Whereas if you're hiring a maintenance coordinator to manage these things, as an option, and maybe that's something you prefer to have that for one reason or another. But ultimately, for maybe this part of the business, that's not working out. Or maybe my maintenance coordinator is just overwhelmed with just the intake of all the other things that can go wrong around a property, that we want to be able to kind of hive off this part of the job so they can do that. So those are my alternatives, and that's why they suck. They suck because it's work that could be done by somebody else that has a lot of follow-up. Like I imagine like just even my own experiences, like it's text messages, it's emails, it's phone calls, and you're just like anxiety oriented, trying to.
Because there's so many steps too. It's like, okay, did he show up to the house? Did he diagnose it? Does he need parts? When is it going to come back? Does a tenant know? Does the owner know? Is the owner aware of the, is the okay with the estimate? There's so many moving parts. And for a maintenance coordinator that already has enough on their plate, it's like the last thing you want is for them to waste their time, like just calling, just hoping that this guy answers. Because now they're focusing on just literally just calling a guy who did not, and then now they're not focusing on something else. So now it just becomes like it's a snowball effect, right? So
they're not managing it.
Not answering a phone call and nobody else there to give them a resolution. That can, it snowballs into a snowball effect. Now you're affecting the focus on things that they should be focusing on. Right. Now they're stressed. Now they're quitting. Now you have to find, it's everything's.
Well, and you ask any property owner, would you rather have your maintenance coordinator focusing on a turn? Because, if you use the math that every email costs 15 minutes and it is like a truism, even if your email takes 3 minutes to write, it costs 15 minutes to do that, right? To get the mental space to do it. Yeah. So you say, or even 10 minutes, doesn't matter. But like you say, 10 or 15 minutes per message means that you are not spending that 10 minutes on something that is higher value, like getting the turn ready, welcoming the resident, doing an inspection, all those things. You're focusing on coordinating this tech. And this tech, it might take 10, 11, 12, 15 steps to get that end to end. So you add that all up, like let's call that 150 minutes. Was that worth 2.5 hours of your maintenance tech's time? Like, was it worth 5% of their week?
Yeah.
To do that one fridge repair,
just low level, just calling just to see if they answer. I mean, that's kind of the effort that you take out of it. So those are options. And we talked about why they're no good. Now, not everyone buys, right? So what kind of objections do you get? Mostly it's kind of like, we don't really get many objections, to be honest. We're blessed. We're there's a huge need. And so it's kind of, the main thing is maybe, I don't want to work. Well, the 10% thing is a big one. Like I haven't been able to work with companies like that.
That's a bad fit buyer. That's a bad fit for you guys.
Yeah, it just doesn't work, which is fine. And then there's well, no, we have a tech and he's great, and I don't want to upset him if I use somebody else, and I understand that, right? Because when you find a good appliance repair tech, you're going to take care of that person. I understand. But at the same time, it's just like, it's not smart though, right? Because you're putting all your eggs in one basket. I was actually just talking to someone, we were at the MX Summit recently. I was talking to somebody, we hear this all the time, like he's about to retire and I don't want to piss him off. It's like, okay, but it's like, you can still keep him happy, but just once in a while, you got to start, trusting some people out. You got to be prepared. You can't put your eggs in one basket. Like we can't, it's not smart, especially in appliance repair. That's such a necessity. Like you have to repair most of those appliances, right? Like you can't just have a tenant without a fridge. So it's like knowing that and knowing there's a shortage and knowing that the reason why you don't want to piss this guy off is, is because you understand probably that it is hard to find such a good tech, right? So you're like worried, upset him, but it's like sooner or later, like I was talking to somebody at MX Summit, they're like, we didn't think he was going to retire. And all of a sudden he went on a trip and then he ended up coming back and he goes, you know what, guys, I decided
I'm out.
And so, and then talking to me and, you know what I mean? So it's like, luckily we're going to be able to help them. Right. But it's like, a lot of people kind of just wait too long. They get too cozy. And, with like that one go-to person, and that's dangerous, especially in the appliance repair industry.
Well, it's like
where there is so much demand, where there is such a shortage of techs, like it's.
And it's getting worse, right? Like it's getting worse.
Which is crazy because the amount of money, especially now with AI and stuff, I would say like, the skilled trades are one of the safest jobs to have, right? Yeah. Because like I mentioned before, it doesn't matter if the appliance is, AI diagnoses itself. Sooner or later, somebody has to go and physically do it, unless they're like a DIYer, right? Which, like, I would be down, right? But that's
but a property manager is not trying. That's not the business they're trying to solve. I'm not trying to build a hobby for myself. I'm trying to build a recurring revenue model, right? So you say you don't get too many objections.
I mean, I guess the other thing is like, the most
of our price, there's a price You mentioned there's a price one. Like there are buyers that can price.
But like I said, it's like, maybe, or they'll try it and it's like, but usually my average, I actually seen these on the forums, like on Facebook. Like I remember somebody was using, they're talking about their average repair cost, but they were talking about how to make money off of it. It's like, and this guy mentions like, my average repair for appliances like 123 or it was something. And I immediately was like, how the hell do you repair? Yeah, it's way too low. Like, how about the diagnosis? Somebody has to pay for the gas and the time. Like, how is that possible? And it's like, I think it's because sometimes like that's what happens. Right? The property manager is like failing to see that it's like, well, you guys are kind of more expensive. I used you twice, and I don't know because you guys. It's like, but like, are we actually fixing the appliances? I mean, what data are you looking at? Because if you're looking
if you can knock off. So let's say it costs, an hour to fix an appliance, but it takes you half an hour to do a diagnostic. If you can knock off 16 diagnostics in a day at $125 a day, that's a damn good living, right? Yeah. Like you're looking at over $1,000 a day in revenue just doing diagnostics. And then
you're like, overcome replacement or too high. And it's like, okay, you're solving it. Like you're shutting the tenant up, but you're slowly pissing off the owner. The owner, like my friend Heidi, just accumulating like, okay, now the deck, now this, now that. And it's just like, you know what I mean? So that's not smart. So it's like, that's kind of like one of the other issues. It's like, well, I mean, it's kind of like expensive. It's like, okay, but what are you guys looking at though? Are you guys looking at just the average of all the repairs, including the diagnostic? Because the real question is, what is your average repair when it's not a diagnostic, like on approved repairs, I guess you could say, right? When we actually do the repair, what is your average there? And that's the key that they have to analyze, right? If you're just getting all of your data and then just including all the diagnostic fees, you're right. But you have a sneaky tech who all he does is mostly diagnostic fees, then of course your average is going to be $123 like the one I saw.
Well, and if you're only buying,
and they're failing to see that you're causing issues down the line, you're going to potentially lose that owner.
Yeah, well, and especially since like if your data set is transactional, you don't really know if you're getting a repeated recommendation or not. Yeah. Because you only have one data set, so you can't really tell.
Analyzing. Yeah. Why is it that what is okay? That's pretty low. That's pretty good, but is it good? Like there's a lot of property are not analyzing that, right? So
and that's the value. That's a value add that you are able to provide because you have that big large data set.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like you know more about
experience. The experience. Like I said, 13 years now in this business. Like
Which makes it fair for you guys to be able to make offers to your tech 1099s based on on scope.
Yeah, like
right?
We know what's fair. You know what I mean? We're doing it so long. We know what's fair and what's expensive, right? So
Yeah.
so
No, I think it's, but to be able to solve things on a scope basis versus an hourly basis, that's a shift.
also what's important for us is like, because of our business model, because like we have to do volume, right? Because we're paying our techs and all that. It's not only like we try to keep it honest and low because that's the right thing to do, but also on top of that, like, it's in my best interest to keep them low, because like if the estimates are lower, then more often I can just do the repair right then and there, or a lot quicker, or order the parts a lot quicker without waiting for approval, which then in turn will make the repair a lot faster, which is what you want anyways. And then, you get the approval for the tech, so they make money. You know what I mean? And if it's low enough, I don't have to call for approval because it's under the NTE, the not to exceed. Yep. And so then I can just get it done faster. I have the tech making money because I'm getting their approval because it was a reasonable estimate, right? So it's not even just about like, that's the right thing to do, is be as honest as possible, but it's also in my best interest to keep the prices low because I want to be able to volume.
Yeah, I also find like techs like, well, a part of some techs out there feel uncomfortable with that estimate part of the conversation. Like they don't, that's a part of the job they don't like that much.
I mean, like the reason why there's this difference in coverage is a lot of these techs, like they're great. They don't want to be controlled at all. Like they don't want to be questioned. And that's a big one. Another issue that they might not want to work with property managers is that they don't want to wait to get paid. They like the money up front, right? Not that they're necessarily going to take it or steal it, but maybe they take the money for a part, and then they don't order it right away. Maybe they use the money for something else. For sure. On the date, and then they make it up later the next day, and then they order the part, right? So those are the things we already know. From, like I said, all this experience, we know what they do, right? So it's a matter of like closing the gaps on the other end. And
for those that are approaching their businesses that align with your speed, your competitive lenses, it's going to be a very easy conversation, right? Here's how you do business.
Honestly, my brother, he's a national account manager, and when he first started, he was like, because we have a product that there's usually kind of like that one weak point that everybody, like the one, like, okay, well, if they ask you this, the rebuttal's this, right? But honestly, he asked me, I was like, honest, you're just gonna be honest. Like, you already know what they go through. You already know that these guys don't answer. You already know that they will inflate the parts cost. or a lot of them will say, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna charge you a diagnostic fee, but if you do the repair, then I'm not charging the diagnostic fee. It's like, yeah, you are. You're inflating the parts, you're inflating the labor. Someone's getting paid because they still paid for the gas and the time. Like, they're going to get it, right? So it's like, we already know all the gaps. We already know all the tricks and all that. So it's like, it's just a matter of just like being honest and be like, hey, we know that they say this. We know that they say that. I usually get a yes, right? So it's like,
hell yes, right? Because again, as a property manager, I don't want to deal with that shit. Like, I know what's going on.
I don't want to
deal with it. It's exploitation. I don't want to be exploited because of the situation, right? And so that doesn't feel good, and it makes me do other things. So that's kind of like part of that hell yes fire, right? So so when you look back at your time, like the time you've been doing the role here, and maybe someone who's joining, what's a bit of advice you'd give either yourself, a younger self, or give advice that you share with new team members or even new maintenance techs? So what do you kind of pass on as guidance for people that are looking to find a hell yes buyer?
Okay, as guidance for like my people or people working?
Advice, people that are selling and delivering for in your experience, what kind of advice would you give? What have you learned that you kind of live by?
I mean, what do I live by? I mean, I think people try to be like, I try to always say, like, I try to be the least full of shit person that I know. That's my goal. I want people to feel like I'm being as honest as I possibly can without being like disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's like the main thing. I think it's like when somebody's pissed off and like, they're like venting and stuff, it's just like, keep it real. Like, you know what? Honestly, if I were you, I'd be pissed. Like, honestly, like, I think that's one of the main things. It's like, it's understandable that these people are upset. Like, how would you feel if like your fridge is out and you just bought like 20 ribeyes and or we get like my medications in there, so it's, I think that it's kind of like, I think people can feel when somebody's being genuine and being sincere. Yeah. And kind of just putting yourself in their position and just be like, you know what, honestly, I'd be upset too. Like, I'd be mad about my barbecue that I lost now because my fridge is, like, so I think that's kind of the main thing, is be as genuine as you can. And then that way you attract, the people you want to work with. Right.
I love it. That's awesome. That is, I think that's what people are buying these days, because there's it's authenticity and
it's like cringy, when it's like too much, like the BS. It's like they're trying really hard. It's like people feel it, like maybe even not, maybe subconsciously, but you just feel that you're, who you're, like, you're not really having a genuine conversation. So it's like,
I hear you. Who should we talk to next?
I don't know. You know what? Maybe I should think about that and send you some names over. I don't know. Not sure.
Okay.
Who do you talk to next? One of my good friends, Tim Wallace from Z Inspector. They have a great company, right? That's important.
Talk to Tim Wallace.
Maybe I'll throw you some more out there later. I don't know.
We'll start with that. I think I've met their people before, so it'll be good. Cool. I'll reach out to Tim. Tim, you're on notice. We'll post you in the chat.
There it is.
There you go. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having us today. I think that, if anything, your close on being authentic and genuine. Well, if you weren't listening to the first 59 minutes, you didn't, you weren't laying on that. And that was one of the first reasons why I was really hoping to have you on the show and chat with you and get to meet you, is because first time I listened to you on that podcast with Peter, I was like, oh yeah, I can rap with this person, because I feel like I present myself as being genuine, authentic. Maybe I lack an internal filter. I don't know, but I'm just constantly curious to hear how people are doing, how people are. I like to work with people that are genuine, because I don't have a lot of. I'm very vulnerable. I'm not good at figuring out people's alternative motives.
Really?
I'm not very good at that filter, and so I have to really actively seek out and think about if people have a different agenda than what they're presenting as, because I trust first.
There's so many years in this industry, like I've said this before, I've been burned so many times.
Yeah.
and I've learned so many times that, every time I've gone against my instinct, which I've said this before, I have a count. It's literally like 8 out of 8 times where I've gone against my instinct, and I've later found out something has happened. I'm like, oh, should I listen to that? So I think it's just it comes with experience. You start to kind of learn and kind of feel, and then the vibes. It sounds core. Sounds like, it's like a buzzword, vibes, but the truth is, how I run my business is vibes, and I try to be as honest as possible, because at the end of the day, it's like, I know I'm trying to be as genuine as I can, and it's exhausting to be the person, and that's not my thing.
Well, it just takes a lot of work.
And then, like I said, somebody had told me, one of my new friends, she's like, you kind of attract people at the end of the day. I'd rather work with good people that I also feel could have honest conversations with.
Yep.
That makes my job easier.
You're more interesting. It's more interesting, right? And we only have so much time on Earth. Let's make it interesting,
100%, yeah.
Outstanding. Okay. Well, we got Tim Wallace. We talked about authenticity and genuineness. It makes it easier to run your life. And I find that conversation very consistent. You guys, the things we chatted about throughout around speed and quality as a differentiator, taking away all those problems for coordination. Your hell yes buyer has a lot of those problems, and they prioritize speed and quality. And so they're looking to pay a premium to relieve those problems. And those that want to compete on price obviously don't prioritize speed and quality. And so it shouldn't
even be looked at as a premium. It actually should be it's actually
well, it's the exchange. It's the trade-off. It's the trade-off.
It's gonna save an owner from firing you. Like my friend Heidi, who literally was like, refrigerator replacement, that's it. I think about that. If I always tell these people, my staff, it's like, oh, that usually doesn't happen, or I only heard that once. It's like, if you hear it once, then for sure it happens all the time. You just haven't heard about it.
Yeah.
So understanding it's sometimes it's we look at it like we're paying a premium. It's not even, first of all, our prices are reasonable, not really super.
No, I know. I'm just saying it's what people. People vote with their dollars, and they pick priorities. They pick the priorities they need that are important to them, and those are the prioriries. And so,
the main. You have to look at that's short-sighted. You can't just, like I said, it's like the 10% people. It's like you're worried about making an extra $40. And then you're going to lose an owner
it's just
in 2 months. It makes no sense.
Well, like we said, it's just not your business, right? Yeah. So you choose to compete on the problem a certain way, and that's your business. So
in Spanish, lo barato sale caro, right? Have you ever heard that? Lo
No,
barato is like cheap, like, what's
yeah.
cheap ends up being expensive, right? So it's like,
Yeah, sería caro. Okay, got you. Yes. Yeah, I got you.
yeah.
La barato sería caro. Yeah, that's what happens. Stitching
Yeah.
time. Okay, cool. Thanks for listening, everybody, today. Appreciate it. If you need to get a hold of any of us or either of us, just or have comments, put it in the thread, and that'll show up on LinkedIn Live. We'll have this pushed out to the Getting Hell Yes channel, so you'll see everything there. There'll be a blog. There'll be some things that come out later on. Any engagement that happens on that, we always appreciate, and just tag both of us, and we'll jump in on it. And if you're listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, follow the show. Appreciate any sort of intel. The more they follow the show, the easier it is the shows we found, and that helps out kind of spread this language, these words around what we're talking about and getting hell yes. Thank you, Valeria, so much today. I really appreciate your time. You were awesome. I'm thrilled that
thank you.
podcast and your first live one. Hey, how about
I know, very intense. Very intense on the inside. I'm feeling really.
You're very good. Okay, thanks everyone for listening today. Have a great rest of your week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
You're awesome.